The Myth of Medusa. A graded reader, Level B1. Chapter 1, The Priestess of Athena. Medusa was one of 3 sisters, but she was the only one who was mortal. She was famous throughout the land for her incredible beauty. Her hair was like liquid gold, and her eyes were as clear as the Aegean Sea. Many men traveled from distant cities just to catch a glimpse of her. However, Medusa did not care for the attention of men. She decided to dedicate her life to Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war. As a priestess in Athena's magnificent temple, Medusa promised to remain pure and serve the goddess. She spent her days cleaning the marble floors and offering prayers. She was happy in the quiet shadows of the temple, away from the noise of the world. But beauty can sometimes be a curse in the eyes of the gods. Chapter 2, The Shadow in the Temple. One afternoon, while Medusa was working, the atmosphere in the temple changed. The air became heavy and smelled of the salty sea. Poseidon, the powerful god of the oceans, had noticed Medusa's beauty. He was a god who always took what he wanted, regardless of the rules. Medusa tried to hide, but there was no escaping a god of the sea. Poseidon entered the temple of his rival, Athena, to find the young priestess. The details of their meeting are whispered in different ways by different poets. Some say she was charmed, while others say she was a victim of his power. Regardless of the truth, the peace of the temple was broken forever. Medusa knew that she had lost her purity, and she feared the reaction of the gods. Chapter 3, The Goddess's Anger. Athena was a goddess who valued discipline and respect above all else. When she discovered that her temple had been used by Poseidon, she was filled with rage. She did not punish the god of the sea, for he was her equal in power. Instead, she turned her cold, grey eyes toward Medusa. Athena believed that Medusa had invited the god's attention with her pride. The goddess decided to transform Medusa's beauty into something terrifying. "Your hair is what men love most," Athena hissed. "From this day on, it shall be a source of terror." In an instant, Medusa's golden locks began to move and hiss. They were no longer strands of hair, but green, venomous snakes. Chapter 4, The Face of Stone. The transformation did not stop with her hair. Medusa's skin turned a pale, sickly green, and her teeth grew into sharp fangs. But the most terrible change was in her eyes. They became bright and glowing, filled with a power that no mortal could survive. Anyone who looked directly into Medusa's eyes would instantly turn into solid stone. She looked at a small bird near the temple window, and it fell to the floor as a heavy rock. Medusa cried out in horror, but her voice sounded like the hissing of serpents. She could no longer live among humans or serve in the temple. She was forced to flee into the darkness, far away from the light of the sun. She became a Gorgon, a monster that everyone feared and hated. Chapter 5, The Cave of Statues. Medusa found a home in a cold, dark cave on the edge of the known world. She lived there with her 2 sisters, Stheno and Euryale, who had also become monsters to protect her. The cave was a silent, lonely place, but it was not empty. Over the years, many brave warriors came to the cave to kill the famous Gorgon. They wanted to win glory and prove their courage. None of them ever returned home. The entrance to the cave was decorated with the stone figures of these men. Some held swords, and others had expressions of pure terror frozen on their faces. Medusa lived in the shadows, listening to the hissing of the snakes on her head. She had become a prisoner of her own power, waiting for the end. Chapter 6, A Hero's Impossible Task. While Medusa lived in exile, a young man named Perseus was growing up on a distant island. Perseus was the son of Danae and the mighty Zeus, though he did not know his full potential yet. The king of the island, Polydectes, was a cruel and greedy man. He wanted to marry Perseus's mother, but Perseus stood in his way. To get rid of the young man, the king challenged him to an impossible task. "Bring me the head of the Gorgon Medusa," the king commanded during a great banquet. Perseus, full of youthful pride and wanting to protect his mother, accepted the challenge immediately. However, as he left the palace, he realized the gravity of his promise. No man had ever survived a meeting with Medusa. He walked along the shore, wondering how a mortal could possibly defeat a monster that turns people to stone. Chapter 7: Divine Assistance. Perseus was not alone in his quest, for the gods were watching him. Athena, who still remembered Medusa's past, appeared to the young hero. She was joined by Hermes, the messenger god with winged sandals. They knew that Perseus needed more than just a sword to defeat the Gorgon. Athena gave him a shield made of highly polished bronze, as bright as a mirror. "Do not look at her directly," she warned him. "Use the reflection in this shield to see her movements." Hermes gave him a sharp, curved sword that could cut through the toughest scales. He also told Perseus about the Graeae, 3 old sisters who knew the secret location of the Gorgons. With these gifts and advice, Perseus felt a flicker of hope in his heart. Chapter 8: The Secret of the Graeae. Perseus traveled to the end of the earth to find the Graeae. These 3 sisters were strange creatures who shared only one eye and one tooth among them. They took turns using the eye to see the world around them. Perseus waited in the shadows of their cave, watching them carefully. When one sister was passing the eye to another, Perseus jumped forward and snatched it from her hand. "Give us back our eye," they screamed in high, thin voices. "I will return it only if you tell me where to find the nymphs of the north," Perseus replied. The nymphs possessed 3 magical items that Perseus still needed for his battle. Terrified of remaining blind forever, the sisters told him exactly where to go. Perseus returned the eye and continued his journey with newfound confidence. Chapter 9: The Magical Tools. From the nymphs, Perseus received the final tools for his dangerous mission. First, they gave him winged sandals so he could fly through the air. Second, they gave him a magical knapsack called the kibisis to carry the Gorgon's head safely. Finally, they gave him the helmet of Hades, which made the wearer completely invisible. Equipped like a true god, Perseus flew across the oceans toward the edge of the world. He arrived at the island of the Gorgons while the sun was beginning to set. The air was silent, and the only sound was the crashing of waves against the sharp rocks. He put on the helmet and became a shadow in the wind. He entered the dark cave where Medusa and her sisters were sleeping. His heart was beating fast, but he remembered Athena's instructions. Chapter 10: The Death of Medusa. Inside the cave, the smell of damp earth and old stone was overwhelming. Perseus saw the statues of the fallen warriors and felt a wave of pity. He moved slowly, holding the bronze shield up so he could see behind him. In the reflection, he saw the 3 Gorgons resting on the floor. Medusa was in the middle, her snake hair moving slightly even in her sleep. The snakes were whispering and hissing softly, sensing a presence they could not see. Perseus approached her, looking only at the image in the polished metal. With one swift, powerful blow of his curved sword, he cut off the monster's head. From her neck, a magnificent winged horse named Pegasus sprang into the air. Perseus quickly put Medusa's head into the magical bag without looking at it. Her sisters woke up and tried to catch him, but Perseus flew away on his winged sandals, invisible and safe. Conclusion: Perseus returned home and used the head of Medusa to turn the wicked King Polydex to stone. His mother was finally safe, and his quest was over. After his victory, Perseus gave the Gorgon's head to Athena as a sign of respect. The goddess placed the head on her own shield, the Aegis, to terrify her enemies in battle. The story of Medusa is a complex one, reminding us that monsters are not always born, but sometimes created. She began as a beautiful priestess and ended as a symbol of power and protection. Even today, her face can be found in art and architecture all over the world. She remains one of the most famous figures of Greek mythology, a woman whose gaze could stop time itself. The hero Perseus became a king, but the legend of Medusa lived on much longer than any mortal man. The silence of her cave was finally broken, but her story will never be forgotten. The end.